there's a lot. Yeah, but, well, we can get started. We're ready? Great. Well, welcome everybody. I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. My name is Mimi. I work with Gray Digital Media. We're the parent company of WCAX, and I'm here with my colleague Tamar. We just want to thank everybody for coming, and we're just going to, really just look at different strategies for digital marketing. That can be, kind of a rabbit hole when you think about it. It's like digital marketing. There's so much involved. Or maybe from a small business perspective, well, it's digital marketing. How is that going to apply to me when I'm a small business? I don't have the budgets for, a massive Facebook campaign or a massive YouTube campaign. So we're going to break down the myths a little bit behind it and really show you how these types of tactics and strategies can apply to pretty much everybody and businesses of all sizes, including small businesses, SMBs, large enterprises, recruitment, you name it. There is always something for everybody in these platforms. So little technical difficulty here. There we go. There we go. We'll just turn this way. So as you can see, digital marketing, we really focus on the tailored and targeted approach. And we call it the principle of the eggs in a basket. So this is essentially a strategy that goes outside the normal traditional thought process. And we'll also talk about the marketing funnel, building the house. And then what is your growth strategy? Think about, where do you want to be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Or think about where do you want to be a year from now? And a lot of businesses don't think past today. But really we want to think about, those things where you want to think long term. And what is your vision? And then the digital platforms, how they affect your message and how you can target your audience. And the future of attribution. How is this working for me? What are the results? What am I seeing in terms of results? And linking the strategies. How do I work these strategies? How do they weave together so I can have an effective campaign? And then Q&A. We'll leave it open for any questions. So just to start, this is what many local businesses avoid, right? I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. 15, 20 years ago, that was what we heard, right? I'm going to put a little bit in the newspaper, I'm going to put a little bit on radio, I'm going to put a little bit on TV. So I do not want to put all my eggs in the one basket. But essentially, I need to diversify my options to get the best possible reach. So that's actually not what we think about in a modern approach. So we look at the tailored targeted approach. So this philosophy embraces an effective marketing campaign with measurable ROI. So essentially, yes, you do want to put all your eggs in one basket because we want to make sure we have enough impressions and that it's saturated to have the right results. So essentially, because we're inundated with so much information now, we're inundated with ads from streaming television, from Facebook, from YouTube, because we're just inundated with so much information, we really need to make sure we have enough impressions that we're going to reach the right people at the right place in the right time, because we need to follow our audience where they are. And if we're spread too thin and we're diluted in our message and our platforms, we're not going to reach the right people, and our campaign isn't going to be as effective. So think of what your business type is as well. A business that must first create a need. No one knows what I have to offer. I have to get in front of them to make them aware. Maybe you're a restaurant, maybe you're entertainment, maybe you're a med spa, cosmetics, a charity, a non-for-profit, maybe you're a retail organization. So you really need to think about a platform that's going to make people aware of what you have to offer. And then, of course, you're a business that has to answer a need. Plumber, dentist, doctor. Those are things that people never want to have to use, but we're all going to have to use them. So those are those are businesses where you want to actually be in the forefront when people are actually searching. I need a plumber. I need to find a lawyer. I need to find a dentist. So those are organizations where you really want to think about, okay, how am I going to show up in the search results? Because what are people doing? They're going right to Google to search for these businesses. And then you want to think how you want to build that brand too, right? So essentially, think about your brand identifiers. What do people think about when they think about what you have to offer? Why do people want to visit your business versus a competing business? And those are things you have to think about. That's your value proposition. Those are your brand identifiers, and that makes you unique compared to your competition. Think about your unique features. What do you have to offer versus your competition? Value. What value do you bring? Are you less expensive? Are you maybe more expensive, but you have a better quality product that lasts longer? So these are all things you want to think about in your message. And this takes our most valuable asset, and that's time. I talk to a lot of people. Money doesn't seem to be an issue. Everybody's got money on some level, but I haven't talked to anybody that has time. So unfortunately, this is one of those things where it's a long game. You want to make sure that you're keeping your business name out there and you're giving it a very high level of consistency. It's like building a house. So essentially, when you think about your brand and you think about your business and you start to think about, I really have to start advertising, think of it like building a house. You have to pour the foundation of the house, right? You can't put roof and walls on a house that doesn't exist. So building a foundation takes time. So think about whether you're a dentist or a lawyer or a retail organization, you have to keep your name out there. You have to build awareness. People have to know. People are moving out of the area. People are moving into the area, out of the area. So these are all things that we need to think about in terms of how we're going to maintain our business brand and mitigate erosion. So, you could be doing well for a few years, but all of a sudden there's some competition that moves in nearby. Well, all of a sudden people aren't necessarily thinking of you first. And that's where a lot of businesses, they always want to focus on just the immediate sales, but they haven't poured the foundation of the house. And while you're pouring the foundation of the house, you can think about putting on the walls and inside it. Educate, inform. What is it about my business? Did my grandfather start this business 50 years ago? What is the story behind your business? Do you help nonprofits? These are all things you want to also really think about as you're pouring the foundation. And then you put the roof on. That's when you can start to see what we call the conversions, the sales. Well, you've established your brand and your brand identity, the sales are going to happen organically. But many businesses want to invert this and they want to put the roof on the house before they've poured the foundation. And unfortunately, if people don't know about you, they're not going to see those sales come through as often as you want. So essentially, it's like the marketing funnel. And we've all seen the marketing funnel, right? Get the awareness out there, also known as get your customers on base. Get them to know about your website, get them to know about your brand, get them to be familiar with your product. And that comes from just a very broad advertising message. Then think about interest and consideration, YouTube, social media, maybe a targeted email. And while you're doing these components, you can start to think about your conversions. Well, we all know about Google AdWords, right? Very important, but also can be a little bit of a tripwire. Search engine optimization, maybe again targeted email, a little interchangeable, and maybe some social lead generation. But all of these steps are very important, and if you're leaving out a step, the house isn't going to be built as solid as it should be. So we want to make sure we cover all of these steps, which is essentially a compound growth strategy. So this is the key strategy needed to maintain brand equity and gain an edge in long-term consumer cycles. That right there is the key word, long-term. You have to think about where you want your business to be a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. If we're thinking too short-term, we might get a few sales here and there, but you're not gonna have that stability in the long term. So we think about, we want that brand awareness, maybe 55 to 65%, maybe some streaming television, depending on the platform, and then you want to engage. You want to start telling them the story. What is the narrative behind your business? Maybe that's some YouTube, some Facebook, and then you want to start thinking only 5 to 10% you need at the bottom, your Google AdWords. We have a lot of businesses that have inverted these levels right here. They've taken the top of the funnel and they're taking 60, 70% of their budget and they're putting it here. Well, that's a problem because while they're doing that, so is their competition. And what they're doing is, if they're doing Google AdWords, if you've ever done Google AdWords before, you know it can get expensive when you're bidding on keywords. So everybody's driving up the cost of the keywords. And all of a sudden, they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're not getting any results because everybody just wants sales now. We need sales now. We're not going to survive if we don't have sales today. But we have to think long term. You have to think 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. And that's where we need to focus more at the top of the funnel. It's a long game and it's hard to do because we all want to be here, but we need to be here. And the ones that are here are more successful than the ones that are here. You know, there's also a sustained growth strategy, and that essentially makes the top and the middle of the funnel equal, which is good because you can be building that awareness as well as educating your clients a little more on, you know, what you have to offer. So this could also be you're targeting a little deeper. You know, here you're reaching adults 25 to 54 who live in Franklin County, Vermont. But here you're reaching adults 25 to 54 who live in Franklin County, Vermont, who also have an interest in vehicles or an interest in clothing or an interest or an affinity towards food and wine, whatever that might be. And then here it's about 10 to 20% at the bottom of the funnel. But you'll see this is always the lowest portion of your marketing budget. So think about your customer, think about your audience. That's very important in digital marketing. Because we're not reaching everybody, we don't need to. We just need to reach the right people, the right place, the right time. You want to think about your customers, think about who they are, what is their profile, what is their makeup. So, you know, it could be, you know, your core customer could be adults, 45 to 65, 80,000 plus income, but your ideal customer who you really want to get is a female 35 plus with 100,000 income. So these might be two separate messages and two separate targeting tactics. And then maybe customers you don't see enough of that you'd like to get a little bit more, maybe that's adults 65 plus. Bottom line is, if we don't know who our audience is, we can't reach them. And that's something you want to think about because who is your audience? In a lot of businesses, they think they know, but they haven't really thought about it. They haven't really developed that profile of who they are. And you know, that information could even come from your website. So if you think about, you know, deep diving into your Google Analytics and looking at the profile of your ideal customer or customers you don't see enough of, those are great ways to kind of look at who is my audience. That's a great question. So this is a buzzword. And it happens a lot, especially in a retail business. Whether you're a dealership, whether you're a small retail operation, return on investment, right? Simply, it's the sales growth for a business minus the marketing costs. So, return on investment. You know, am I making money? Essentially, that's what it means. Am I making enough money to justify this marketing strategy and this marketing campaign? So that can be a double-edged sword. Because what's happening is you're not thinking of all the other factors involved in an ideal and effective digital marketing strategy. So the problem is that it doesn't have a defined timeline. So are you worried about sales today? Do you feel you're not getting a return because in the last week you haven't seen the traffic you want? So too many businesses are making decisions on ROI much too soon when they don't see immediate results. And again, that comes back to a long-term vision. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. We need to give this time. So they're looking at these hard KPIs, those key performance indicators. You know, audience growth, video completion rate, reach, impressions, frequency, website attribution, how many people are coming to my website, conversion metrics, I'm not selling anything, I'm not selling enough, I'm not selling the right product. So these are very, very important things to look at, but you also want to be a little more open-minded and think about some other factors as well. I'd rather think of it as return on influence. And this is very important because it comes back to that brand identity. This is about visibility, engagement, and audience numbers. So what is the emotion with your brand? What do people feel about it? How do they connect with it? And those are all things that you want to think about because people buy 95% of the time. We buy on emotion. We buy because we like what a brand stands for, or we like it because of the visibility, and we like it because we feel emotionally connected to it. And you think about the last product you bought, whether it was a car or a pair of shoes, it doesn't matter because we are emotionally connected to the brand. And these are soft key performance indicators that rarely think about, but they're so important to our brand being successful. Brand awareness, brand equity, market share, customer loyalty, quality and value, brand consistency, and engagement. So these are all things, again, what is the emotion tied behind your product? How do people feel about it? What is the brand connection? So, and this all comes back to needing that long game, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And this is why. So it used to be 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. This is how we bought things. Went to a website, click, purchase, boom, conversion, done. Whatever I did, it just worked. Unfortunately, let's fast forward 15, 20 years, and that is not how we get our information anymore. Those were the good old days. This is what we call multi-touch attribution. So how many of us are inundated with information every day? Facebook, streaming television, Google. I just looked on my phone, I was retargeted with an ad. I've been looking for a plane ticket, and now all of a sudden I can't stop getting ads from Delta and Southwest and United and everybody else, and it's just coming at me from my Facebook, from my Google, to the ads I'm watching on television. This is crazy. And this is, think about these arrows going in all different directions. This is why it's so hard to know where your business is coming from. Because people could see your ad on Google and then walk into your store 3 weeks later, you ask them where they heard about you, and they're like, no idea. I've just been seeing these ads and I can't tell you where. That's exactly how we all obtain information now. We're just inundated with so much. Which is why it's so important more than ever to cut through the clutter and cut through the noise. And you do that by having that very clear vision of reaching the right people at the right time in the right place. And we can do this now with digital marketing. It was a little more difficult to do with traditional, or called terrestrial radio, television, print. We kind of threw an ad out there and just hoped the right person would see it. We're not hoping. Hope's no longer a strategy. We're actually doing this on purpose. And then we finally start to see the conversions, but boy, it's a really messy way to get there. So one of the platforms, and this carries a huge interest to a lot of businesses when we talk about digital strategies and platforms. OTT, it's a buzzword, you've probably heard about it. And one thing I'm going to apologize for up front is the overuse of 3-letter acronyms in the digital world, So essentially, for some reason, somebody felt that 3-letter acronyms were just the way to go, and we just made our jobs that much harder. But OTT stands for over the top. And essentially, that's a very, strange word for getting your television content through an internet device. You have a smart TV, an Apple TV, so that's how you get your content. So essentially, this is how the majority of people across the country are now getting their content. We don't have cable signals, we don't need it, we can actually go on to our smart TV and get the same content that we could with cable. So essentially that's streaming television, and I think you mentioned it, Nick, you mentioned, streaming television and how that's impacted, the world around us. But actually it's made it much easier and more accessible to get to the right person. So otherwise known as over-the-top, connected television, performance television, there's a few names for it. So essentially it's a delivery mechanism for video content delivered over the top instead of through a cable or satellite connection, and it can be viewed on, OTT can be viewed on any device. You've probably watched HDTV on your phone at one point or another. Connected television's a little different. This is just the big screen. This is your television set at home, and it's connected television, and you can get this through, an Apple TV, a Roku, smart TV, and it combines the delivery mechanism with the viewing experience. And this can be completely interactive as well. You've probably seen, you've paused on Hulu and seen those pause ads that come up on the right-hand side. So essentially, as technology evolves, it's gonna get more and more interactive. So in 2024, this market's expected to hit $186 billion. This is huge. And this is where businesses want to be. The video advertising segment alone is going to be almost $85 billion. That's crazy. And this is going to create more opportunities to convert on ad channels across the board. I can tell you there's never been a more exciting time for a business to take advantage of OTT and be on television in this way. Because as we all know, what's been happening lately, your Netflix is going up, your Hulu is going up, your Disney Plus is going up, and they're raising the subscriptions. Well, what are they saying? Well, if you don't want to pay more, you're going to watch the ads. That's great. Everybody has a very high tolerance for ad-supported television now because they don't want to pay more. Pretty soon, if they keep raising these rates, we're going to be paying the same as cable. So they have to be competitive. So they're actually playing in our sandbox right now. And we're seeing inventory open up on Hulu, Amazon Prime. You're going to start to see Disney Plus, Netflix. They're starting to open up the floodgates. Yeah, we need ad-supported. We need the ads. So again, expected through 2028, OTT video advertising is going to be the largest segment. So it's a great and very exciting place to be. Vermont, 90%. I want to say if we were to pull the same data today as of right now, that's probably closer to 95. But that's a population, because we're a little smaller here, it's a population of about 451,000. So again, the majority of us, this is how we're getting our content. And here's the OTT shift. We're all spending more time streaming. Well, yeah, because we love Yellowstone or we love a particular series. In fact, as from a broadcast perspective, this has given us much more access to our viewers as well. Because people can now watch WCAX on Hulu Live, YouTube TV, Fubo, what we call the mini virtual cable providers, the technical cable providers. So essentially you can get your same content through a cable signal as you did through a cable signal. Mobile is still a very dominant device, but as you can see, the big screen is really taking off, and we're going to start to see this gap become less. Because during COVID, we were all home. What did we do? We had the TV on 24 hours a day, right? Well, that didn't stop today, now that we're post-COVID, because essentially a lot of us are still working remotely maybe, or if we have a storefront and we're the face of our business, we got the TVs on at work. So either way, we are much more connected to that big screen TV than we have ever been in the past, and COVID had a lot to do with that. Hulu is the most utilized platform here, but as you can see, YouTube is making a big run for that. And we'll get into YouTube in a little bit, but YouTube is a chameleon. It's social media. It's OTT, because we watch it on the big screen. It's connected television. It tries to be, it's a search engine. Is there anything YouTube is not? So it's interesting how they're making a play for all the platforms. They're very much a chameleon in this space. There is something called the halo effect, and over-the-top connected television can have a tremendous halo effect on your other digital platforms. So this boosts campaign performance on all other channels. More attention, more qualified web visits, more opportunities to convert on ad channels across the board. Rising tides raise all ships. That's what OTT does. So on your Google AdWords, your paid search, people are seeing a 22% stronger conversion, and then for social media, a 9% stronger conversion. So as you can see, again, rising tides raise all ships. The more you link these platforms and link your strategies together, the better the results you're going to see. OTT, CTV, a lot of great capabilities with this platform as well. Audience segmentation. Who's your audience? If we don't know your audience, we can't reach them. So we want to think about that. Is my audience adults 25 to 54, or do I need to tier a little bit older? Do I need to look at income? Do I need to look at geography? Do I need to look at interest? Do I need to look at consumer intent? Ad recall and engagement. When people are sitting down watching a program and your ad has been targeted, your ad is delivered, people are going to recall that ad just astronomically more than if they just saw it on a billboard, or maybe it was something they heard on the radio. So again, that ad recall is incredibly important. Data-driven insights. We can actually track who were the visits from your website that were actually exposed to the ad, and then how many of those overall website visits were exposed to that ad on OTT. So there's a lot of capabilities in terms of data. Brand safe viewability, that's very important. Your brand is your lifeline, the lifeblood of your company. You want to make sure that it's in content that is aligned with that brand. And then interactive ad formats, we've all seen the pause ads on Hulu, we've all seen the QR codes, things like that. So there's a lot of capabilities with this as well. So how to make an effective OTT schedule, where do you start, right? How do I even start to do this? Target audience, who's your audience? And a lot of times we get caught up in the technology. What platform am I going to use? Well, what networks am I going to appear on? Well, those are all things at a much later date. We have to identify that target. And we were talking to a business yesterday where that is the biggest question for them, is who is their audience and where are they? Identify the maximum amount of impressions. Maybe you want to reach adults 25 to 54 in Franklin County, Vermont, but there's not enough population to make it effective. You actually have to reach more counties, or you have to extend your demographic a little bit more. So those are all things you can look at as well. And then you want to go in at about 15 to 20% of those impressions and that infiltration. So yes, we can see how many impressions are available 25 to 54 in a specific county, but we want to make sure we're getting enough, and sometimes there's too much. We don't have enough budget or enough impressions to make it effective. So those are all things you want to look at. And then you can refine your budget. Maybe you have more budget than you thought, so you can reach outside and reach more people. Maybe you don't have enough to reach a specific area, and you need to define that radius a little bit more. You need to add on more targeting layers. So your budget can be very dependent on these factors, and a lot of times these aren't always taken into consideration. And it goes back to building the house. You're trying to put a roof on a house that doesn't exist. So the way we access this information, we're inundated, right? That picture, I love this picture because it says it all. And if you have kids at home, this is probably how your living room looks. But as you can see, everybody is cross-device viewing. You've got somebody watching, maybe it's HGTV on their Apple TV, and then you've got someone on a cell phone, someone on a laptop, someone on a tablet. So we're all using different devices as we watch television now. It wasn't the case probably 15, 20 years ago, but I can't say there's, who doesn't here watch TV with their cell phone? I'm gonna say nobody, right? So again, it's one of those things where we've just changed as consumers. So 88% of us are simultaneously using a digital device. Again, if we wanted to pull those numbers today, I'd say it's probably in the 90s. But it goes up pretty often. So why is it called performance television now? Well, it's targetable. We can look at who we want to reach. We have a captive audience. So think of it as invited content into the home. If you know this person or this particular audience segment has displayed an interest in your product, then it's invited content into the home, right? They're gonna want to see the ad. No ad blockers. So again, you can't skip the ad. You know, a lot of these ads are non-skippable. Cross-device reach. You're watching TV, you see something you're interested in, what's the first thing you do? Go to Google. What is that? I want to see more about that business, more about that product. And measurable results. So there are ways to track this. It is trackable. Flexible ad formats. You can do 15s, 30s, you can do pause ads, you can do QR codes. It's cost effective. Why is it more cost effective? Because you're not reaching everybody. You're only reaching who you want to, or who's interested in your product. Geo-precision. We don't have to reach the whole state. We work with a very large mental health organization, and they utilize this platform with us because they can reach a specific county. They do not need to be seen outside of that county in Vermont. So geo-precision was very important to them. They couldn't work with us in broadcast land because it was reaching the whole state, but they were able to take the cost effectiveness and the geo-precision of OTT, and we came up with a very effective campaign for them at a fraction of the cost. Less ad clutter. So unless you're talking about the State Farm ad on Hulu that you see 25 times in 10 minutes, and we all know that ad if you've ever watched Hulu's State Farm, it's a little much. They definitely don't understand the term frequency, but typically if it's done correctly, there's less ad clutter. You're not seeing ads that are, you know, not targeted to you. Innovative ad formats. So again, there's a lot of capability with OTT. So in the OTT family, it's kind of a cousin of OTT. So targeted display and video. So we're moving a little bit away from the big screen. And again, we're still pouring the foundation of the house, but we're getting a little more targeted now. And targeted display and video, we're all familiar about this. If you've been surfing the web, you know, you've been going to Google, you know, you see ads. You're on CNN.com, you're on MSNBC.com, and all of a sudden you see an ad for Southwest come up. Oh, that's so funny. I was just looking on Delta for a plane ticket. Wow, now Southwest wants me to check out their $39 deals to Florida. Well, that's no accident. They knew what you were doing and you were targeted. So again, you're gonna see a video pop up while you're on the next news article you're reading. Again, and this is a common theme in digital advertising, you're going to see targeting, and it comes back to audience. If you don't know your audience, we can't reach them. So there are phenomenal targeting tactics available with this platform. And, you know, starting with behavioral, looking at activities on what you are or not doing based on search histories, interaction with similar content. Whether you've looked for a plane ticket, you've looked for a car, you've looked for a hotel somewhere, all of a sudden you're getting, you know, hit with ads on different organizations, different businesses. Well, that's no accident because they're behaviorally targeting you. Contextual, looking at relative keywords, topics. I was typing in hotel, and all of a sudden I keep getting hit with ads for booking.com. Search and site retargeting. Serving ads in response to sites visited and search history. That's incredibly important. So if you do have an e-commerce site, this is incredibly important because a lot of times, and we all do this, we're all guilty of this, we go on a site and we just put items in our shopping cart and then we go away, right? I don't have time to think about it. I don't know if I want to spend this money. I don't know if this is the right product. So what happens? All of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you get an ad for that business and they're saying, why'd you abandon me? Come back to your cart. They're retargeting you based on that behavior. And then lookalike audiences. Again, think about that audience, who they are, and maybe you want to build. I want to reach new people. Well, this is a really good audience, adults 25 to 54, and they're interested in this particular product, but maybe they also have outdoor interests. So I'm going to target that population with outdoor interests and lifestyles and behaviors and things like that. So there's a lot of targeting tactics. For a small business, this is the platform we utilize the most. It's the most cost effective, and the targeting tactics make it incredibly viable for a business that doesn't need to reach a lot of people, but they need to reach the right people. And they know who their customers are. And this can be an incredibly effective platform. Essentially, it's programmatic. So we've all heard that term, it's a buzzword. What's programmatic? It's a bidding process. So we all, advertisers, agencies, demand side platforms, publishers, supply side platforms, a lot of technical terms in here, but we use what we call a real-time bidding exchange. So essentially, our programmatic team goes on and basically buys inventory for our businesses based on those targeting tactics. And they determine the price in the bidding process. So while this can be cost effective, remember it's a bidding war. So the more that certain sites and keywords are being desired, the higher the cost. That's why we have set budgets that we don't exceed. Real-time measurement data, again, this, if you have Google Analytics set up, which as a small business is crucial, you can always look at the results through your Google Analytics. It's greater efficiency, there's the ability to optimize and target the right audience in real time, and then you can reduce your overall cost. So again, think about that audience and who you're reaching, because it's even more important because your targeting layers are much more defined. So this is examples of probably what you've seen, and if you've ever had to recruit anybody, you can see, banners can work really well in this case. But one thing a common theme you'll see on these is they're telling you what to do. And that's one of those things, you're gonna reach the right people, tell them what to do. Like these types of ads can be no joke because you really want somebody to take an action. So click here to apply today, join our family, calling all nurses, click here. What do you want them to do? Typically you want them to click. Maybe you want them to call, maybe you want to bring them to a form fill. Whatever that is, tell them what to do. Video. Video is very important because we can run static banner ads. Static banner ads are very important because they're very cost effective and you can tell somebody what to do and they can click on them. That's what's great. They can click right to your site. But there's so much more in this landscape now than clicks. And that's because of video. Video is so important. And if you're on CNN.com, MSNBC, and all of a sudden, these ads are coming up in the middle of your content. Well, we've all experienced that. So video can run before, during, or after the content that you're watching. And you want to make sure that this is incredibly engageable. Some best practices, if you're thinking about this type of platform, change up your creative every 2 to 4 months. Now that might seem like maybe that's a long time, but you want to make sure that you're getting the right message out there. Unless you're doing a sale, that's very timely. Maybe it's a sale for a certain date. But typically, you really want to think about your brand and keep changing up that creative probably 2 to 4 months. Run a separate set of creatives as sales and promotions come up. So keep rotating those out. Your messaging should match the audience. So think about that. If you are, children's clothing, for example, so who's a great audience? Moms. Mothers, caregivers, guardians, things like that. Maybe it's nonprofits, but you really want to think about that messaging and who it's going to target. So you can also utilize codes, so you can actually see if you're running a campaign, you can see if they clicked or if they went to your website in any way. So there are ways to use codes. Everything is trackable with digital marketing now, and it's getting more and more so. So how to target? Think about age. Think about interests. If you're recruiting and need to hire, think about the industry. We work with a lot of manufacturing facilities, and they have a very specific segment that they want to target. Geographies. This is important. Yes, you can reach just Franklin County if that's all you want to reach. Keywords. What are your services? Think about the keywords that go in. Even if it's a video ad, keywords are very important because Google's going to read those keywords and see it as credible and relevant or not so much. Maybe it's parents of young children who like to visit national parks. Yes, we can get that granular. Or maybe it's women 35 plus making 75K household income and interested in luxury furniture. Yes, we can get that granular. So there's no limits here. It just, you're going to narrow your pool the more you focus on this type of targeting, but maybe that's your goal. And maybe you're looking to hire. Think about people attending nursing school. We've done a number of those campaigns as well. Anybody in the medical field know that these folks are just in dire need for people in the healthcare field. So that kind of wraps up, a Google for now. But another one that you want to think about is targeted email. So we all get targeted emails, right? And we get these emails and we want to subscribe, unsubscribe, we're kind of inundated with emails. But when you think about it, targeted email has taken the direct mail industry by storm. Well, there's a reason for that. Because I can choose whether I want to receive emails or not. Sometimes I can't choose if I want to get the direct mail, no matter how hard I try. So why is email marketing good for the small business? It generates $38 for every $1 spent, right? Not to mention the fact it's dramatically less expensive than direct mail. It's got a very high return on investment. You're targeting the right people and they've opted in to receive emails and they're interested in your product and they're your right audience. Chances are they're going to take advantage of your product. You can engage throughout the customer life cycle. Maybe it's not new customers, maybe it's the loyalty. I've got a list of extremely loyal clients and I want to send them a coupon. It's relevant. It's the fastest path to revenue. And it's customized to the audience. So if you think about it, this email is only going to specific people. You can do A/B testing. So maybe you want to send out 2 emails and see which one performs better. And think about the ad copy. And we go back to telling them what to do. What is that action you want them to take? It's great for building relationships. Again, maybe you have a first-time customer, a first-time buyer, and you want to send them a loyalty. Here's another 10% off, just for being a great customer. Boost brand awareness. This is great, and it's very cost-effective because it's only going to a specific audience. It's a great way to tell them about your brand and really think about the value in your brand identity. And then promoting your content. It's huge for promoting your content. Maybe you're having a sale, maybe you're doing a brand opening, maybe you're just opening a new business. It's a great way and it's very cost effective. It's a great way to generate and nurture leads too, because maybe you're sending an email to someone and you want them to fill out a form. So you can have them fill out a form, it goes back to your lead center, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, now you can really get that one-to-one conversion. But it's a great way to generate and nurture those leads. Some key elements to test in emails are subject lines. Again, what are we telling them to do? What's the interest? Is this the right audience? Is it a compelling subject line? Think about your content and copy. And I encourage you after this, the next email you get, think about that. Is it targeted to you? Is it compelling? Does it make you want to take advantage of that email? Design and layout, that's very important. Call to action. What are we telling them to do? If we don't tell them to do it, chances are they won't do it. Do you want them to call? Do you want them to click? Do you want them to go to your website? What is it you want them to do? So some best practices with email marketing, again, define your goals and audience. And it goes, I say it a lot, but if we don't know your audience, can't reach them. So think about that. Choose separate test variations. Again, see which one works better. Segment your audience. Make sure it's a very defined demographic. Create sign-up options. This is great. So if you have a business, you want to send out an email, and you really want to generate some return, make them sign up for something. And then track and analyze your results. And this ties back to your Google Analytics, where you can actually see the engagement with this email. I always recommend A/B testing in this case. So data-driven decisions in marketing, data-driven decisions, which one is working better? Think about 2 different emails and which one performs better. And that's going to help you forecast into the future in terms of how you want your creative to look, who you want to target, what you want your ads to say. So this can have a lot of data that can feed forward into your future decision making. Improve conversion rates. Again, that $38 for every $1 spent. An enhanced user experience. It's a competitive advantage. It's dramatically less expensive than direct mail, and it's great for a small business. Again, just to kind of summarize, it's cost effective, it's got a great reach. Make sure it's customized, personalized, engaging, measurable, direct communication. Feel that you can talk directly to your future client. And then, of course, targeting. Think about A/B testing. 2 sets of different creatives to see which one reacts better. Consistency. Maybe do this quarterly. It doesn't have to be every month. Typically, most businesses do this quarterly. Brand loyalty. This is going to be a great way, again, we talk about that emotion, that brand connection, going back to that. This is a great way to develop that. And then, of course, innovative ad formats. You can actually embed or link a video into these emails, which is really nice because now you're getting the benefit of email with the benefit of video together. So how to elevate your email marketing? Segment your email list. Think about your targeting. Who's your audience? If you want to get that higher open rate and click-through rate, and then relevancy, increasing engagement and conversions. Subject lines, call to action. Tell them what to do, what action you want them to take. What is it I need to happen? And think about, if you were to tell your ideal client what to do and they were to actually do it, think of it in that way. Wow, I actually have the opportunity to tell them what to do. Craft compelling subject lines. And think about A/B testing. Look at the metrics to see which elements resonate. This can be huge because, again, this can be incredible forecasting for the future. Wow, I really realized this audience resonated much more when I said this. And that's how all your future videos, all your future platforms, all your future creatives can now start to take shape. So again, this can give you some incredible insight into forecasting your future advertising campaigns. It's all about total engagement. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're reaching the right people and that they've opted in. So you can't reach people by email who have not opted in. It's actually against federal law. We call it a can spam law. So typically, if you're doing that, it typically goes to spam and your email didn't work. So you want to make sure you're getting the right list. You can look at buying behaviors, device IDs, triggers, consumer behavior, interests, things like that. And then there's a lot of great capabilities with this too. You can do banner ads, you can pre and post target. So you can reach them before they get the email, you can reach them with a banner ad after they get the email, you can do resends. And again, the targeting tactics are incredible with this. So these are just some examples of emails for businesses that we've worked with. This one is actually a hiring ad. This one is actually for Tropicana, Pepsi. So one of our stations in the Midwest actually works with Tropicana, and as you can see, they're huge fans of email, and you might say, well, this is a huge corporation, I'm a small business, can be proportional, on the same level, just a different budget. And again, those are some more hiring ads, and that's fun how some businesses think, well, I have to hire. Well, that's marketing. That's selling your culture. That's selling your culture like you sell your product. And this is one we did for Hello Burlington during the flooding, and we needed people to donate. So think about, what do you want them to do when they get this email? Want them to donate now. Well, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We told them what to do, and this is how we told them to do it. And this worked phenomenally well. So yes, it's very creatively appealing. Bottom line, we needed them to click here and donate. Again, we need to tell them what to do. So here's a new one, and I kind of blow your mind with this a little bit, but I don't know if anybody here is a gamer, an e-gamer, but yes, this is a thing now, in-game advertising. E-gaming is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's one of those platforms, depending on your audience, you may very well want to tap into. So there's a couple different types of advertising platforms within this, but as you can see, this actually looks like a real sports arena. And as you can see, Ruffles is here as people are playing. You can see the brand. Talk about branding, right? Again, you want to think about your audience. Is it male? Is it 18 to 34? You know, those are all things you want to think about with game ads, but this is a thing now. So these are ad units dynamically inserted based on your targeting to appear natively. Like it looks like it was, you don't really notice it's an ad, but then you're like, oh wait, Ruffles. So it's served when the game is in play. So you're driving a race car and then you pass a billboard, and that's essentially what it is. So it's kind of one of those more passive approaches, but they work really well. And then of course there's interstitial game ads, and look who's jumped on board of that one, Ford. So again, you know, we're looking at the Shelby GT500. Well, so those e-gamers, those sports fans, this happens to be a vehicle that they're also super interested in as well. And again, with this interstitial game ad, what are we doing? We're telling them what to do. Enter the garage, build and price, take an interactive tour. We have to tell them what to do. So again, those are actually full screen ads in gaming apps with a display end card. Once video is finished, and these are served during game transitions like pre-play or between sections. So again, this is going to be a very specific audience, but you want to think about that audience, and you want to think about, okay, is this somebody, you know, is my audience, are they gaming? A lot of people are gaming, more than actually I even thought as well. But if you think about it, if we're not gaming, we know somebody who is gaming, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. So if you did want to jump on board with this platform or learn more about it, think about these best practices. Target audience, authenticity, that's very important. Be authentic, because you know this type of audience, they have their brands they're connected to, so just be authentic. Engage the influencers, and we'll get into this in a little bit with social media. We all know about social media influencers. Gaming influencers are a lot bigger than social media influencers, believe it or not, and they make a lot of money, so you definitely want to engage. In-game advertising, and then of course mobile optimization. Make sure your content's interactive, and always link it back to your social media. There's data-driven targeting, data, and then embrace innovation. And this may be something that's a little more difficult to wrap your head around, but if you think about it, this is the future. This is the future of advertising. So this may very well be something where you didn't think you had a viable audience on this platform, but all of a sudden, you know what? It's something you want to dive into. So, which brings us to another, not necessarily as new platform, but one of those we don't necessarily think about all the time, right? But streaming audio you know, in the last 10 years, there hasn't been a car that hasn't been equipped with Sirius XM or, you know, Apple CarPlay. Streaming audio, much like email has taken the direct mail by storm, streaming audio is taking what we call the terrestrial radio platform by storm. Because when you think about it, what do you do when you drive to work? I listen to my podcast, I listen to my Apple CarPlay, I listen to Sirius XM. So when you think about it, you know, when you think about drive time, this is where they are. This is drive time now. Spotify, Pandora, Acast, iHeartRadio, Cumulus Media, you name it. This is where, again, your audience is. So streaming audio, you know, can look like this, and we've all been on our podcast where these ads pop up. Going back to our common theme, and I've said it a lot today. Know your audience and tell them what to do. And this is what these ads are doing. So they know their audience. You know, these people have been targeted for a buy one, get one, or maybe it's a donation for a nonprofit. Maybe they're hiring. Doesn't matter. Whatever your objective and your audience, you have to tell them what to do. So digital versus terrestrial radio, and the reason we call it terrestrial, because again, it's, you know, may have its purpose in this world, but you gotta hope the right person's listening. You gotta hope the right person then listens and then either goes to your website or walks in your store. Hope now is no longer a strategy. We're going back to being inundated with all that information and where, oh my God, I've got Google and Facebook and my video ads on TV. You've gotta cut through the clutter. And it's more important as a small business to cut through the clutter than anything else because you have a very limited budget and you need that budget to work. So, you know, this is targeted engagement opportunities, immersive branding, cost-effective, flexible. So when you think about it, you know, especially this, I mean, think about that brand identity. This is a great way to make people know about your brand, what you stand for, what are those identifiers, and your value proposition. And then cross-device consistency. This is great. I love this because they can hear an ad, they're listening to Dateline on Spotify, and then all of a sudden you're on MSNBC, and then all of a sudden you get that same ad as a video on MSNBC. So the retargeting, the cross-device consistency, maybe you see that same product on HGTV. So again, everything's tied together through your IP address. Scary? Not scary? No? Are we being followed? Absolutely. Real-time analytics, interactive elements, there's a very low ad avoidance. And the reason is, we're targeting the right people, they're gonna wanna know about your brand. They're gonna wanna know about your product. We're not reaching everybody. We're not hoping the right person's gonna see it. We're way more strategic than that. And innovative ad solutions. We're reaching the right people at the right place in the right time. We're not hoping the right person's gonna hear it because our demographic listens to the radio between 6 and 10, and it's this age demographic typically, so let's just, it's way more strategic than that. So some of the best practices to think about with streaming audio, audience. Understand them. Know who they are. Before you can even understand them, you have to know who they are. Think about that and take some time to think about that. I encourage you after this to really think about who your audience is. And maybe it's somebody that you had, you know, you really didn't know. I really didn't know that people 45 plus liked my product. That's really great. So I'm going to tailor messages to that 45 plus crowd. Use engaging creative. You know, make it short and sweet. Call to action. CTA, I'm going to go back to our 3-letter acronyms. I said at the beginning, we love our 3-letter acronyms. I don't know why. But call to action, tell them what to do. If you don't tell them what to do, they're probably not going to do it. And then frequency and timing. So think about maybe those drive times. Think about when people are more likely to be listening to a podcast. Maybe it's at work, so you want to reach them at 10 in the morning. Depends. But these are all things you want to think about. Targeting. Think about that audience. Measure and analyze. CAL, completed ad listens, another 3-letter acronym, but basically how many people are actually listening to my ad when they don't have to. And if they're completing it, that tells me I'm reaching the right people at the right time. Integrate this with other channels. Go back to Google and say, you know what, I want to retarget using a video now. So we can do that. We can retarget your listeners with other channels. Comply with the platform policies, that's always important. You have to make sure that your creative is credible. And then test and iterate. There's no perfect campaign out there. I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately, because we're all just learning, right? And as these platforms change and technology changes and our audience changes and our own business changes, we always have to be, looking for the best possible outcome. And that comes back to optimization of any campaign. So, getting back to the acronyms in the digital world, we love them. CTA is simply a call to action. Tell your client, tell your viewer, tell them what to do. On sale now, limited offer, don't wait, hiring now, your dream job awaits. These are all great call to action, but you can go deeper. Fill out this form, click here. So call now. These are all things that we can do, but if we don't tell them what to do, they're probably not going to do that. And the best way to relate to your client is to think about the last time you took advantage of something. Put yourself in your client's shoes. And I always try to do this because I need to almost become who they are in order to understand them. Think about the last time you took advantage of something, and maybe it was a car. And you know what? I've been looking for Jeeps, and all of a sudden I see an ad when I'm watching Yellowstone for a Jeep. That's no accident. Then I'm on Google and I see another ad for a Jeep. All of a sudden, they send me an email, and then I hear an ad on Pandora, and it's saying, get in here now, click here now, call now. They're telling me what to do. And I'm worried because this lease deal ends at the end of the month and I gotta get in there. So these are all things you can do. Maybe it's a sale. Maybe you're having a sale and you say, you know what, my sale's only good till the end of the month. Did you know that? Come in now, only 3 days left to this sale. These are all things you wanna do. And these bigger brands like Trek, bicycles, Jeep, car manufacturers are great at this too. They are just consummate professionals at this, because how many of us start to panic when we know the sale's about to be over? We got to get in there before we can't save money anymore. So they know this, and they know how to do it, and they know us inside and out. And this is where you want to be. You want to know your customer, you want to actually be your customer, and then you know how they operate. CTR, this is actually more commonly used, click-through rate. So essentially it's just an equation of, let's say out of 30,000 impressions, you had 158 clicks. So you do a simple percentage and it's a 0.52 click-through rate. That's a pretty easy way of doing it, click-through rate. I mean, click-through rates have been a thing in digital advertising since I started 20 years ago, because that's all we could do, right? We're gonna click through the ad, boom, done. Ad worked. Click-through rate is still a metric. It's still used, and you still want to see if people are clicking. There's so many other ways of deep diving into data now besides this. So attribution, that's a term that has become a buzzword. And essentially, it's just determining what's working. Is this ad even working? What's the outcome? Maybe it's a sale within a digital marketing campaign. So is the ad working? What's my attribution? What can I attribute? Can I attribute this actual digital marketing campaign to my sales? And that's become something that as digital marketing evolves, we hold ourselves accountable more and more and more. And we have to always be looking into the analytics to show that the ad is having engagement, that the ad is having traction. And it's a very fine line. Because if we go back to the beginning, we talked about branding. Got to get your brand out there. Got to Yes, we all know that. You gotta build the foundation of the house. But I gotta tell you, and people will say, you know what, Mimi, I'd love to pour the foundation, but if I don't put a roof on this house, I'm not gonna stay in business. And that's understandable. The problem is, they're just building the brand, they're just pouring the foundation now, when they should have been pouring it 5 years ago. So we're held to a very high standard of attribution, and we have to continually be showing the data that these ads are working. So how do we do that? So there's a couple of different models. And so there's first touch, you know, basically I saw the ad, I clicked, boom, I bought the ad. Last touch. So I saw the ad on HGTV, I saw the ad on Google, I heard the ad on Spotify, then I saw it again on Google, I clicked and bought it. That's the last touch. And then there's linear attribution, time decay, where people take time to make those decisions, position-based, custom-based, and algorithmic, where, you know, Google will tell you what your attribution model is, essentially. But there's a lot of different models with attribution that we can use. It doesn't take the place of branding, though. So, data analysis and insights. If you have a business, this is your business. This is the lifeblood of your business. And this is something where if you don't have this set up, you need to get this set up. Yeah, like run, don't walk, and get this set up. Because it's gonna tell you the data you need to know. It's gonna tell you who you need to reach. It's gonna tell you where you need to reach them, and it's gonna tell you when you need to reach them. Google Analytics 4 is, it can be a little bit of a rabbit hole, and it's complicated, but Google made it that way for a reason. Because they wanted people to be able to track their business better. And this is why they came up with this model. So monitor, adapt, and review. There is no perfect marketing campaign. We do this every single day. We have our best clients that have been with us for, you know, the last 10 years, and we're still doing this every single day. There is no set it and forget it, unfortunately. You have to optimize at each stage of the campaign life cycle. So branding, am I reaching the right people? Conversions, did I see enough of those come through? Encourage feedback. This is great. Encourage feedback from your customers. You know, what did they think of that last email? What did they think about that last video? Analyze your metrics. And again, Google Analytics 4 is the way you're going to do this. That's the lifeblood of your business. It will tell you everything you need to know about people who are interacting and engaging with your product. With all that said, you know, don't forget your brand equity. This all has to be done, believe it or not, simultaneously. You have to be looking at you know, your bottom line conversions and sales and doing this at the same time. And the clients who forget to do this experience what we call brand erosion. What happens is they go, I've been here 50 years, everybody knows my business, I'm good. All of a sudden, 10 miles away, a competitor moves in. Oh, wow, they're really doing a lot out in the market. I keep seeing, you know, XYZ business. And all of a sudden, they start to see sales get a little bit slower, and a little bit slower, and a little bit slower. So that's what's called brand erosion, because they stopped monitoring this. And if you think about it, Pepsi still advertises, Coke still advertises. Everybody knows what those products are. Doesn't matter. You know, Coke and Pepsi know if Coke stops, Pepsi's gonna start to take market share. So again, building brand equity, give yourself time. You know, you gotta pour the foundation of that house. It's like a plane taking off. It doesn't just pop up into the air. So time, unfortunately, is something none of us have, but we have no choice. It takes time to build that equity. It's perception, right? How do people perceive your business? Is it positive? Is it negative? Consistency. It's not a one and done. You can't do it for a week or a month or a year and then say, good, I'm done, boom, problem solved. It's gotta be all the time. Value. What is the value your business brings? A lot of times this can also be not just financial or quality. Value can be, what do you do, you know, what's your position in the community? Do you help nonprofits? Do you partner with nonprofits? Visibility. Well, I've been here 20 years, everybody knows I exist. They do until the competitor moves in and all of a sudden your visibility isn't as high. Impressions, how many impressions? How many, how often are these ads served up to your audience? So that kind of brings us to video marketing, video. So we've talked about a couple of different levels in terms of some static ads, some streaming ads on digital radio. But really, video is such an important part of your marketing strategy, especially when it comes to social media. And social media, love it or hate it, it's where you have to be to some extent. It's a very important component. So how important is a video-based strategy for social media? Think about your last, maybe you did some boosted posts on Facebook or LinkedIn. Comes again back to the way we access that information. Video is so important because we are slammed and we need to cut through the clutter and reach people with the right message. So again, think about that buyer persona. Build your client. Think about who they are, age, gender, occupation, interests, goals, buying behaviors. Create relevant content in that video to that specific audience. Segmentation, divide the larger target market into subgroups, demographics, psychographics, behavioral patterns. Again, there's a lot of different ways to slice this, essentially just getting to the right person. So we all have information, we all have access to the same information now. It's information equality. I can research something, you can research something, there's no disparity to information anymore. It's not because this person receives the newspaper subscription and this person does not, so this person saw the headline, absolutely not. We can all go on to CNN.com and get our news, right? And that's the way the internet has changed information access. What this also means is that people know about your product before you even know they do. So this is especially true in vehicle. I mean, last time we bought a vehicle, we've all researched everything in and out of that vehicle before we even walked in the dealership. So we can read reviews, research alternatives, fact check claims. We can curate information. So instead of giving people the information they can already find, they already know where we are, they know what we offer, that's great. But we can provide information in a video that helps them clarify, process, and interpret. What do you want them to know? What's not so well known about your business that you'd love for people to know? So again, it comes back to that creative messaging. And then connection. So we need to find ways to connect and make our brand relatable. What is the emotion behind your brand? How do people feel? How do they react? Are they loyal? If somebody else were to come in with a product that's less expensive, does that affect me in any way, shape, or form? So why use social media, and more importantly, video on social media? We actually just talked about this, the extensive user base. Everybody's on social media, even YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Targeting capabilities. And Facebook is great for their targeting capabilities. They're very difficult to work with as a platform, but they have really fantastic targeting capabilities. It's very cost effective. There's diverse ad formats, engaging, tracking, influencers. You can retarget. It's great for mobile reach and always growth and innovation. 86% of businesses are using some sort of video as a marketing tool. So again, if you're not using video, I strongly encourage you to really give that a shot. And it doesn't have to be expensive. iPhones now are extremely capable of doing video, as well as there's a variety of editing tools. So 66% of those consumers find short form video the most engaging on social media. Of course, 30 seconds or less. And 93% of those businesses say video is an important part of their strategy. So again, if you're not utilizing video, I strongly encourage you to give it a shot. So this has increased 15% from only 5 years ago. So think about where we're going to be in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, and how you want to position your business to be at the forefront of that. 4.9 billion people use social media across the world. That actually doesn't surprise me. And 302 million people use social media just here in the USA. So that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of targeting capability. And 90% of the total population and 75% of adults. So think about it, how does that apply to me? I'm a little small business in Franklin County, Vermont. Well, think of it as we're all using it. So it's a great way to reach and target. It's incredible scale. So social media users in the US from 2019 up through 2028 projected, again, almost 332 million users by 2028, so it's only going to grow. It's a growing platform. So this was a survey done for social media, and it's back in 2021, so in technology years, that's actually a long time. But when we think about it, it had some really good data. So after discovering a new product or service, it told us 67% of consumers visit the brand's social media first. So, for example, they heard about you on Spotify and didn't go to your website, they went to your Facebook page. That's kind of interesting. And then video ads are the #1 way consumers discover a brand they later purchased from. So again, you know, think about it, maybe you bought something because you were served an ad on Facebook or Instagram, but you didn't really think of it that way, but that was actually pretty targeted. Same message, different platforms, one spot. So again, from this survey, this was some of the data that they came up with. So what's the overview? It's the go-to methodology for local creation. You know, make it quick and easy to produce. Don't get overwhelmed by it. It's easy to manage. Brand recall. They're seeing your video on Facebook or Instagram, they're more likely to recall it. And then 93% of brands landed a new customer after sharing a video on social media. Think about that. So again, you're looking for new clients, not just existing, but new. This is a great way to do it, video on social media, and it's very cost effective. Video ads are the #1 way consumers discovered a brand they later purchased from. And again, that same message, relevant platforms, and know what's working. Of course, there's huge amount of opportunity with social media, and you could really, again, get a little overwhelmed with this. I know we talked about TikTok, but you think about it, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, the 3 heavy hitters. That's really what you want to tap into. Why? Because they've got the most people. So this was interesting. So this shows the number of consumers who made purchases because of a video ad on social media. So again, it shows a significant increase in purchase behavior, and 21% made purchases because of a video on Instagram Reels, and 23% made purchases because of a video on TikTok. I'm gonna guess that audience was much younger than this audience probably, but this is what it shows, bottom line. Look at YouTube. YouTube is a lot of things, and now we're going to relate them to social media, but look how they've grown, and this was just in 2021. In video, digital world, that's a long time ago, but that's 33%. And then Facebook, 26%. So this is how people are interacting, and this is how we're buying stuff now. This is what we're doing. We're buying stuff off Facebook. So some trends, how to make sure your content gets noticed, cut through the clutter, right? The noise. So what affects engagement? So, you know, winning engagement. This brand did a phenomenal job. I don't have a case study to show you, but they did a phenomenal job in really navigating social media to drive people to make purchases. So you have the freedom to choose your platform, right? The average user spends over 2.5 hours per day on social media. That's a lot of time. But think about the platform. Think about the audience who's on the platform. You want to go older, maybe it's Facebook. You want to go younger, maybe it's TikTok. Bottom line is, how are they connecting and engaging with this video? And this is very important, especially when it comes to social media, because social media is very much a passive approach. You think about, you're at the grocery store waiting in line, you're at the gas station, you're scrolling through your feed, all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I am interested in that. Kind of caught you by surprise, but it's no surprise because they know you're interested. So top 10 monthly average users. YouTube. YouTube is the most watched most utilized social media platform, and then Facebook. So if you really want to tap into social media, I strongly recommend these two. They are, they're the behemoths in the social media industry. And some of these might be interchangeable. LinkedIn's B2B. So if you really want to reach, if you're B2C, you're really going to want to look at these top platforms. Instagram is owned by Facebook, Meta. So typically you can have the opportunity to, whatever you run on Facebook can also run on Instagram. But bottom line, these two are the platforms you're going to want to look at.
Got to update number 10 though.
Oh, and Twitter? Update it to X.
Update to X and drop those numbers way lower.
Yeah, this is what it was pulling up with as of last
just
year.
put up number 32, Trump's social thing too.
Well, you know, and you know, it's one thing.
400,000 users.
It brings up a good point, because if there's one thing social media is good at, it's controversy. It doesn't matter the platform, it's all controversial in one way, shape, or form. And I think it's because of our ability to engage as consumers, right? We can never do that with traditional platforms, but all of a sudden now, social media, we all have a voice. And we can all, you know, voice our opinions or voice our thoughts. And that's exactly why it's become, you know, there's some controversy out there because, you know, people are not going to always agree with what is being said. So those are all things you want to, which brings up another really great point. Navigate that path carefully and always make sure that when your brand is exposed on these type of platforms that it's done very objectively. Like, this is my business, this is what I stand for, these are my products, and just keep it out of the clutter, and you're gonna find that you'll be just yards ahead on social media. YouTube that's the video king. And with over, you know, just the hours of user-generated content that is uploaded on video, or uploaded on YouTube every single day, think about, you know, the ability to target and the viewers and the users and the targeting capabilities and the scale. Having that YouTube channel for your business is incredibly important because it lets you talk to your consumers or your future consumers. And just YouTube.com versus Netflix.com, you know, far, far, far ahead, almost 99 billion visits compared to Netflix. So, and again, just looking at the sites, this isn't necessarily the apps, these are just the sites, but you can see the users is far higher of just this past June. YouTube is, for video, the most watched, and then Netflix, and then Facebook, and then Instagram. And I think you're gonna start to see, potentially, depending on you know, Netflix and how they're really embracing the ad-supported world, you might see this flip, and Facebook might overtake Netflix, because they're pretty close. So I have a feeling that these two are gonna be neck and neck. So why YouTube? I mean, it's obvious, by, you know, we're all on YouTube. So 2 billion users every single month, you can't go wrong. By 2025, half of all viewers under 32 will not subscribe to a pay TV service. We were just talking about that, like how many of us have cable, and under 32 is you know, that's actually being pretty conservative. I would say put that under 40. 95% of all OTT watchers in the US are watching YouTube. It's the most watched digital platform in the US with viewing by 75% of US adults. Netflix comes in second, around 70. And then in March, YouTube was watching on TVs. This increased by 80% year over year. So it's growing. Bottom line, YouTube is growing, and it's a great way to scale that audience and be in front of the right people. As a brand, as a small business, 74% of viewers bought from brand after seeing it on YouTube. They're engaging, they're connecting, and you're creating that brand loyalty. According to Google, YouTube is one of the company's biggest advertising revenue growth drivers. and education and entertainment are the top category searches with over 2 billion monthly users, and 50 million of those users are content creators who upload 576,000 hours of video every day. That's a crazy amount of video. It's all video content. Content is king. Video's where it's at. So think about that. You want to be in on this, and don't overcomplicate it with video. You know, our iPhones are incredibly capable of doing video now. So this is interesting. So 70% of visits are on a mobile device. Well, to purchase, right? We don't purchase from our big screen TV, but here's what's interesting. So what's changed is that the YouTube journey, because of that education and information need, it starts on the big screen TV. So how many of you actually put YouTube on your big screen TV? I know I do, especially if I want to research the features and benefits of a car, a resort, a product, how to fix my clogged kitchen sink. These are all things we look at on YouTube. However, when the decision comes to make that final conversion and make that final purchase, it's happening from a phone, a desktop, a laptop. We don't complete those purchases online from a big screen TV, but we start the journey there. So the bulk of impressions are from the large screen, and research equals time spent. So this short form opportunity will compete with TikTok and Instagram. And as we were just saying, you're gonna see YouTube actually now be the new TikTok eventually, I would say within the next year. And then it's all about content. Video increases your Google rankings and drives your digital presence.
Yeah, and YouTube already has the shorts, which is
right.
Their big response to it.
That's their TikTok competition. Exactly. So when you think about video, Google loves video. Google owns YouTube, and Google basically can make or break your digital presence, right? So if you're on YouTube with credible and relevant video, Google likes that. And they are going to start to raise your, what we call a quality score, meaning you'll show up further in the search results, in the search queries. So if somebody's searching for children's clothing or children's consignment or things like that in this area, you're going to start to rise in those searches. And instead of spending tons and tons of money on Google AdWords, which you should still do, just a very limited amount, instead of just burning out your budget with Google AdWords, you can actually get there organically. Unfortunately, it's going to take time. And again, it's like pouring the foundation of that house. It can be done. And we're doing it now with businesses who are embracing this video trend rather than burning out their budget with Google AdWords. So again, it's about strategy. It's about long-term vision, seeing yourself 5 years, 10 years down the road, and being in it for the long haul.
So does that video presidency need to be on YouTube in order for that to rank with Google, or on your website, on your social, like all of the above?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it. Put it on YouTube, put it on your website, put it, do some targeted video with it, put it through your social media channels. The biggest connection is going to be what you're saying in the video. So make sure that you have your relevant keywords. Always be reiterating, making sure your phrases are relevant to your business. And then Google picks up on that through your algorithms, and they can actually, okay, so this person is credible, she's relevant, I'm going to start to boost this over time. So when people are searching for your product, you're going to start to rise organically instead of having to pay for it. So it's the second largest search engine after Google. That's kind of interesting. So more people are going to YouTube than they're going to Bing. So think about that. The average American spends 24 minutes a day on YouTube. It's crazy. And 75% of Americans use YouTube versus 69% using Facebook. So again, when we talk about the ranking earlier, using these two in conjunction can be extremely heavy hitting. So we look at the growth just from 2020 to 2022, and we reach almost 30 billion in advertising revenue on YouTube. Again, it's the biggest revenue driver for Google. So it's no wonder that they basically can make or break, you know, your business. It's just a matter of knowing what their strategy is and adhering to that strategy. So when we talk about going back to building the house, the sales funnel. And we talked about pouring the foundation and just getting your customers on base. Engaging with them, connecting with them. The messaging should change as you get further down that funnel or as you start to put the roof on the house. And, you know, starting with attracting, get your brand out there, build your brand awareness, build your brand identity. Then you engage. Tell them a little bit about your business, what you stand for, your community connections. And then you start to connect. And those are going to be things where you tell them what to do. Click here, buy now, donate. Bumper ads. Bumper ads are really cool. Those are those 6-second bursts that run right before your 30-second video. And they're extremely engaging. Target based on keywords. Keep in mind this is not designed for high clicks. Clicks are great. It's a 20-year-old metric that we don't necessarily look at as closely anymore for many reasons, especially with video. So video completion rate is very important in this case because people are watching it on the big screen, TV. So you can't click on the big screen. You want to look at that video completion rate. If people are watching a video, and put yourself in your consumer's shoes, if you're watching a video and you don't have to, that shows that we're probably interested in what they have to say and they're doing a great job targeting. Because I can tell you if I don't want to watch something, I'm skipping after 5 seconds. Combine your search engine marketing, your Google AdWords, and your video strategies by including keywords in the video file and title. So you're starting to see a really incredible amount of synergy with this. And we start to link those digital platforms together because they all have a purpose and they all work really well together. Rising tides raise all ships. Combine these strategies. So again, you know, there's a lot of best practices with YouTube, and there's a lot of things and a lot of strategies you want to take a look at. Biggest thing you want to look at with YouTube is that because they are skippable after 5 seconds. Push your message to the first 5 seconds. Make it incredibly engaging right off the bat. Make it I have to watch this video. This is so cool. What is this? You know, the best YouTube videos, you don't even know what it is until you're about 20 seconds in. That's where video can be incredibly engaging. You mentioned it yourself, using those YouTube shorts. YouTube plans to take on TikTok. Post consistently. Add the YouTube video to your site. That was a great comment. Add that video to your site. Post consistently. Write meaningful comments. Use your other marketing channels. Combine and link those together. And then, of course, make those first few seconds really engaging. The bumper ads help. Biggest reason that YouTube, that I actually utilize YouTube quite a bit, and there's a few reasons. But custom audiences is the biggest one. So if you're a small business and you really, you have a limited budget, you need to reach a very limited audience, you can do custom affinity and custom intent. So the best thing about this is that you can actually target people who have already that brand emotion and affinity towards your product. You can also do custom intent, people that are actually getting ready to purchase this type of product. These are great ways to reach your ideal audiences. We were working with a hard cider company yesterday, and obviously not everybody's interested in this product, but we knew by utilizing custom affinity and custom intent, we could get them as far down the funnel as humanly possible. And then keywords, life events. People that are getting ready to have children, get married. These are all things we can target in terms of in-market. Maybe they're getting ready to really pull the trigger on that set of golf clubs. Whatever it is, we can actually target. And then utilizing a blend of maybe 2 to 5 is your best practice, but those custom affinities and custom intents for a small business, huge. Bumper ads, these are great. So these are those 6-second ads that run right before your 30-second ad runs. They're incredibly engaging and they're always fun to watch. So we were actually having this conversation yesterday. Make it fun. That's the biggest thing with YouTube. Make it fun. Make your business fun. Have fun with this. This is something that's got to be incredibly creative. I'm just gonna play, this is actually an example of a bumper ad.
Minty. Delicious. Mmm.
6 seconds. So as you can see, it's one of the, it just kind of catches your eye. And especially when people are so busy, we're inundated with tons of information. It's really important to reach them immediately. And they did a really great job with this. So TrueView ads are the most commonly used ad unit. And these are skippable after 5 seconds. And you want them skippable, and I'll tell you why. Because typically YouTube doesn't start charging you unless somebody's actually completed the ad. So if you're doing this correctly and somebody's gotten the bulk of your message at 29 seconds and they click off and you don't get charged, it's got a really valuable impression. So this is actually a really genius way to capitalize on an audience and not burn out your budget. Because you are charged once they complete that 30 seconds, but if you figure, you know, the people that are completing it are really the ideal audience, but wow, am I getting some impressions out there? Because I'm not getting charged for those impressions. Which is why you should really push that creative in the first few seconds. And then of course you can do in-stream ads, which plays during longer form video, much like a TV commercial. So that's just another way of doing it. This is a really good one. This is for a pizza shop, Ramonto's Pizza that we did.
Break oven pizza with hand-spun pizza that's baked with that thin, crispy New York crust, as well as pasta, sandwiches, and salads. Made with the freshest ingredients, from our whole milk mozzarella to our pasta sauces made from scratch. Ramonto's has what you're craving. Locally owned with a fantastic selection. Have the slice of your life at Ramonto's. Stop in today. Ramonto's Break Oven Pizza in Claremont, New Hampshire. Real New York pizza.
Now, I don't care if you've had Thanksgiving dinner, you are still gonna want that pizza, right? So that makes you hungry, and that's the emotion. That's the emotion behind that brand. I am gonna go to Ramonto's, that looks delicious. And I can tell you, walking in there, and I've never had Ramonto's pizza, but I'm gonna walk in there and I'm already going to like that pizza because that's actually transformed my mindset about pizza. So what we're doing right now, this is the shift, right? The shift in information, the shift in digital marketing. We're going from brand awareness to brand connection. It's emotion. We don't buy off logic. I don't care if it's a car, a house, or a pair of shoes. We do not buy off logic. We buy off emotion. And we buy with what we're connected to. So how are you connecting to your future clients? It's creative. Use familiar faces. What's the face? Who's the face of your business? And do they resonate? We did this for a very large nonprofit in Vermont, and we ran a set of ads that didn't have this person in it. We ran a set of ads that had a very familiar person in it, and those ads, the engagement and the metrics were off the charts. So think about that. And everybody knew who he was, everybody was commenting, everybody was just going crazy because they knew this person. Build for sound. This is, you saw at Ramonto's, there's music, it's really upbeat, it just gives you energy. Oh my God, this pizza looks amazing. Education, humor, suspense, have fun with it. You saw the little puppet with the green tea. This is something that you can actually have fun with. Don't overload it with text. Again, tell your customers what to do. Tell them what to do. Have a clear call to action. So some new ways marketers are using Facebook video and what they're doing now. So, there's over 5 billion monthly average users. How do you leverage your business? Well, those are great. Those are huge companies like Unilever, Ramonto's Pizza. I'm a very small locally owned business. Well, you can still leverage your business, especially with Facebook. So Facebook prioritizes content from family and friends over businesses. It's just what they do. It's their algorithms. So how do you win with an organic approach? So leverage all the platform has to offer. Video. Utilizing video will help you do this because a lot of times people will post family, friends, and it's not going to be relevant video with keywords in it. So you can actually combat that pretty easily. And when your brand does a post, Facebook is looking at how often the business is commenting, liking, and keeping up with the audience conversation. So when even if you do just a boosted post, and we're not even talking paid ads, but if you're doing just a boosted post, make sure that you're consistent with it. You're responding to the comments, that just make sure the engagement is there with this post. So some best practices, when it comes to Facebook, ask questions to comment and spark audience engagement. Ask questions to your audience. Say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Or what do you think I should do in this case? You'd be surprised at how many people want to offer their opinion. Utilize stories for question and answer. Product showcases. This is a great way to showcase, especially if you a new product line. Encourage and create group events. Facebook does prioritize those when showing posts, so group events would be good. And then post content that encourages meaningful, lengthy comments, and use video. Post content daily. The algorithm will downgrade if you post randomly, so they recommend daily. I would say if you can't keep up, that's a lot to do daily. I would say at least 2 to 3 times a week you'd be okay. They recommend daily. Zappos. This is a great example of a brand. Again, we're talking a large enterprise, but let's bring it down proportionally. They asked a great question. Again, ask questions. Make your audience think a little bit. What's the go-to shoe for dad this summer? This is a great example. They just threw a question out there. Look at that post. It's just a question, just a question. 251 comments. So this has nothing to do with the go-to shoe for dad, but look, they're in the middle of the funnel. They're putting on the walls of the house and they're saying, look, this is about our adaptive segment of our company. So they make, essentially it's making footwear for people with disabilities. So this is a great way to showcase what they're doing. But it came from a question of what's the go-to shoe for dad this summer, and boom, they automatically moved into a narrative. Genius way to do that. The world doesn't adapt to our needs the way we'd like it to. But this is a great way that showcases the mission statement and the value that they hold. LL Bean, another really great way that they utilized Facebook. Who doesn't love that picture, right? Right? We're not looking at the booth, we're looking at, first thing I noticed was the dog. I didn't even notice, I didn't really care about the booths. I just saw the dog, I'm like, that dog's adorable. Who doesn't love that dog? Well, there's a little bit of a strategy here, the way she's posing. Look at that, how duck boots are made. We're all looking at this, we're not looking at those. But all of a sudden they transition into, look how our duck boots are made. So you know what? They are building that brand emotion. Maybe I didn't have any connection to these boots at all, but I'm looking and I'm like, wow, those could really come in handy next time I'm out in the woods with my dog. So it's really about the strategy and tying into that emotion, that brand connection. How are they connecting with the audience? Genius. So Instagram, the other leg of Facebook. Facebook owns Instagram. Instagram equal Meta. Again, another behemoth out there in terms of platform. So what Instagrammers are doing now. So Instagram prioritizes posts with the highest number of likes and from profiles that the user engages with. Hashtags. You may have noticed the occasional post from a profile you don't follow in your feed. That's because they're prioritizing posts with the highest number of likes. So you could actually get into the feeds of your potential clients by utilizing these strategies. Best practices with Instagram. Engage with the content the first hour and after the brand posts something. So if you're posting something on Instagram and somebody's commenting, somebody's liking, make sure you interact with that. The first 3 hours are critical. Respond to each comment, write meaningful captions, ask questions. That was a great run from Zappos. What's the go-to shoe for dad this summer? Well, everybody's gonna respond to that. Engage with your audience. Use Instagram stories and reels. Those are really, really engaging because they're very quick, short, to the point. Stay consistent. Social media will downgrade content if a brand posts randomly. They recommend once a day. I'm saying 2 to 3 times a week if you can, unless you have someone that manages your Facebook for you consistently. 2 to 3 times a week is good. And then combine an investment strategy with an organic approach. So we're talking about really the organic approach here. That is not to take away from a paid strategy on social media, because that strategy has a lot more capability to get your message in front of the right people than just boosted posts. Yes, we all should be doing boosted posts, telling our future clients about ourselves. But really consider that paid strategy, because that is going to give you the targeting capabilities, and it's going to essentially be able to put that message in front of the right people with strategy. So Facebook, Instagram stories. Instagram stories can lead to a 35% increase in brand outcomes. And I'll tell you, people love stories. They want to be told a story, they don't want to be sold. And that's where Zappos and LLB are geniuses, because they tell stories. They don't sell you. They weren't telling me that duck boots were 50% off and I got to run out and buy duck boots. They told me a story about a really cute dog and how I could utilize those boots with my dog. It's a simple and effective way to showcase your brand's personality and keep attention. Here's a good one. This was bacon in something called Test Kitchen. But as you can see, it's just moving images. But doesn't that look delicious? Makes me want to watch this video. What are they going to do with the bacon? So as you can see, anybody can, these videos are not complicated. So stay tuned for the bacon results. And again, this is one organization that's telling a story through this platform. Long format. So posting longer content is gaining popularity and increased reach and engagement. Make it easy for them to devour your content and continue their Facebook journey. So you want to make sure you get your point across and that you're staying engaging. And really with long form content, the biggest thing is that you want to make sure you're in front of your ideal audience, because if you're not, they're not going to have that interest level. So targeting becomes incredibly important with long form format. You think about it, we watch something over 10 seconds, we're probably going to watch the whole thing because we're invested. But if somebody doesn't watch at least 10 seconds, they're probably not going to watch it. And then repeat, get repetitive, it's consistency. So post a link multiple times with different visual or altered text to attract different audiences. So maybe you have a few audiences you want to reach. You have millennials and you have Gen X and then you have some boomers. You want to make sure that your link and that your text and your messaging is coherent to those different audiences. And I haven't said it enough, there's a few things we've really repeated through today, but video is so important. We process video 60,000 times faster than text. It ignites emotion and connection. You saw that. It entices viewers to seek more information, and vision is our most dominant sense. So if we're using video as the dominant platform in our marketing, we are going to really connect and create that brand emotion. We buy on emotion. Engagement. It's all about engagement, right? Click, post, like, share, save, comment. These aren't always positive. These aren't always wonderful. Best thing about social media, if you're controlling it, you can really mitigate those negative comments, take them out, whatever. But this is going to be good and bad. It's not always going to be great. So you want to make sure that you are really monitoring your social media accounts. So we mentioned this just a little bit earlier, Peloton. Peloton did a phenomenal job of taking their clients through the funnel and building the house. So I didn't do this case study. One of my colleagues in Charlotte, North Carolina actually did this case study. And he started with, it was a 45-day study, and the study was performed every morning and evening over 45 days. He used a completely fresh device, a brand new phone, no data was in that phone that could target him. And he showcased the buying journey. You know, he did Google searches, Peloton.com website visits, YouTube videos viewed, and social media followed and engaged with. And this is what he found in terms of what Peloton, how Peloton strategizes their marketing. So these videos, I think you know, if you're familiar with these, they're really amazing videos and you don't even know it's a Peloton. You have no idea what this is. Just really cool videos.
Stranger, you don't know me, and I don't know you. I don't know that you still dream of getting the band back together, but that your first love is cricket. I don't know that you fought for your country, that you're going to name your child Miracle, or that despite them calling you chicken legs, you made it all the way to the top. What I do know
Peloton, pick up your pace.
is that in the 22nd minute,
Last set, come on.
when I have nothing left to give, and I doubt, it's you who shows up for me.
Give me a little more.
It's you who keeps me going.
We're in this together, Peloton.
So, dear stranger, really? We aren't strangers after all.
I didn't know that was Peloton until the last second, but I'm like, what is this? And you want to complete it because you want to know what they're talking about. I mean, this is top of the funnel, building the foundation, building that emotion behind that, you know, sight, sound, emotion, music. You know, they really got it covered here. Here's another one.
Presentation.
And take it slowly.
Music that moves you. Just one part of the best cardio machine on the planet, Peloton.
Here I come. You can't hide.
It's creative, right? And again, they're not selling, hey, Peloton, $600 off. By now, they're not doing that. We're pouring the foundation. We're getting that awareness out there. So here's another one. So that was at the top. He started seeing those ads. So then engaging. He started to see these on social media. It was a video series of Bex Gentry. She's an Olympic athlete, and she's also an influencer and an ambassador for this brand. So he started seeing long form video on social media about Bex Gentry. And then again, we're putting on the walls and siding of the house. We're telling a story, more long form video with John Pruitt, who is a trainer in social media. So now he's starting to see these come up. Okay, we're getting just to the middle of the funnel. They're changing their message. We're starting to actually see specific people and have a very specific purpose behind this type of messaging. And then, oh, what do you know? Oh, now he's starting to get, okay, we're kind of sick of you doing this and you better buy a bike now. So here's a $450 value on the new Peloton tread. Now the monetization comes in. They're like, okay, we're tracking you, buddy. We know you're interested in this bike. Now here is the offer. So here's an Instagram video special offer ad. And of course, now we're getting an email. So we're integrating the different platforms. Here's an email ad. Special offer, $600 value on the Peloton bike. So here, again, we're connecting at the bottom of the funnel and they're giving a dollar amount. They're also telling him what to do. Very clearly telling him what to do. Claim this offer now, because we're really getting tired of you researching our bike and not buying it. And then here's a video special, $550 value on the Peloton Bike Plus. He's getting a lot of dollar signs here. Okay, they're really targeting me. They really want me to buy this bike. They're really hammering me. But as you can see, it started with those videos, those commercials at the top. You didn't even know what it was. And now you can see that, all right, now they're getting pretty down and dirty with this. So the messaging changes as people get closer to actually purchasing. And that's really where you want to get creative. So, if it's in store traffic, maybe, your website's great, but you really want to push foot traffic too. Think about events. Geotagging and check-ins. You mentioned you have, you have a special tactic built into your website where you can see volume and inventory change. Exclusive social media offers, user-generated content, partnerships, live demos, Q&A, customer reviews. These are all things that are very important in terms of that in-store traffic. So getting back to video, how do we do this? Right? You telling me I can do a video on my iPhone? I don't know if I can do that. So just some things to keep in mind. You want to plan the delivery. Identify what platforms and messages you should use with your creative. We talked about a lot of platforms today. You are not going to want to use all those platforms. I'm just giving you the broad overview of the options. What you're going to want to do is strategize the best ones for you. And think about your message, think about your audience, and what you want as the outcome and goal. Plan the message. When you're doing a video, think about, clip 1 at 30 seconds, clip 2 at 15, maybe clip 3 at 10, and clip 4. So break it into chunks. Break out your creative and your B-roll into chunks. And then think about, this is very important because people are going to be watching your video on different devices. So make sure it's optimized for a mobile phone, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet. And then link them together. You don't need to do them all. But if you're going to do Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, think about how those strategies link together. Think about utilizing the same keywords in each video. And then set a clear objective for yourself. What are your goals? So the same reason we say, what's your audience? Who are they? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve with this? Is it brand awareness, web traffic, leads, sales? We all want sales, but we're not going to get there if we don't have brand awareness. Customer engagement. And then understand your audience. Tailor your strategy to relevancy, demographics, behaviors, pain points, fear of missing out. And then integrate those channels. Be consistent. Messaging, branding. When you post, make sure you're doing it 2 to 3 times a week. Think about your approach. And then your content strategy. Align with goals, objectives, and repurpose across all those channels, like Peloton did. Value, education, entertainment, problem solving. We didn't touch on this a lot, but search engine optimization and search engine marketing. Optimize your website and content, keep it relevant. Keywords. Think about some Google AdWords or paid search. Blogging. It's a great organic way to really showcase your product. And of course, video. So some final thoughts with video. Don't make it more complicated than you need to. Get a professional. They're out there. Professional videographers. You can do it if you want to. And then don't forget the key steps in making it relevant and memorable. And don't use so many platforms that your frequency suffers. You don't have to use everything. Think about a couple of these. Make sure you have the budget for it too. If you don't have a marketing budget set aside, and it doesn't have to be a big one, make sure you set aside a certain portion of your sales as a marketing budget. Bring in a professional, plan out the story, find the best platforms, and strategize your audience and targeting layers around that. And essentially, that's in a nutshell what we do. That's a lot of information. But I'd like to open it up to any comments, questions, answers. I'll start with you, Nick.
Sure. As a small business in Swanton, what would you focus on to?
That's a great question. So as a small business in Swanton, the first thing I'd focus on is targeted video, because that is one of the most highly utilized platforms to get that Google love. And the targeting layers with that for a small business. As a small business, being able to target is even more crucial than an SMB or a large enterprise, because you can only reach the right people, and your budget has to be effective. So that's typically the top choice for a small business in Swanton, just based on those capabilities and based on the targeting tactics. Let me ask you this question. Do you have Google Analytics set up with your website?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I would strongly recommend getting that set up, because that's going to tell you the data you need to be that more cost efficient. and that more effective. And you may only need to reach this audience. So that's where your dollars can work harder. That's actually a great point, because when you think about it, you get up and go to work every day. We all do. We work very hard. So your dollars, your marketing dollars, your digital marketing dollars, your digital impressions have to work harder than you do. They have to be targeting the right people all the time, with the right message, the right place, with the right budget, right? So think of it in that way. It's an employee that works 24/7 for you and only gets paid by what you allocate to your marketing budget. So they have to work really hard. It's like putting money in the stock market. You don't see it all the time and how it's working, but you know if it's not generating a return, then that's something you need to look at and maybe reinvest those dollars. So, but that's a great point. For a small business, it's even more important to be targeted and just very hyper local.
You also need to be aware of how the YouTube algorithm changes, because for a lot of things, like if you say you have a big video that blows up and then you have a bunch of videos where the viewerships drop, you're actually going to be punished by YouTube because they're not going to share your video as much anymore because of the that's why many places have 2 channels.
Right.
One for you can do the big announcements that are going are going to get a lot of views, and then the smaller ones because YouTube will punish you if you put out a bunch of smaller content.
Right. No, and that brings up a great point. And along those lines, Google is changing their algorithms. Google is the big monster behind YouTube, so it's even more important to make sure that message out there is incredibly relevant. Think about the wording and think about those keywords in that video and how you're tagging it in that video file, and that's going to help you stay relevant, because you're absolutely right. When Google sees that relevancy drop, they start to downgrade it. So it's more important, and it comes back to the optimization of the campaign. It's always being looked at.
Can I just ask, when was this presentation made? Because the fact you use Peloton, like when I saw Peloton pop up, I almost started to lose it just because the company's they basically died after 2022. Like their stock shares, like $3 a share, and one of their biggest contributions to that is they bought ad space on Sex and the City, and the main actor died on his Peloton, and overnight it dropped their stock price like 23%.
And that goes back to controversy, right?
If I can add to this, because he asked me on the side while you were talking, when was the last time you updated this, and I had to be like, oh, I'm not with her, I'm just here recording. But I looked that up because you said it, and Peloton has approximately 6 million worldwide subscribers. 90% of members keep their membership for more than 1 year. New Peloton membership has grown on an average of over 500,000 since September 2019. In 2022, Peloton members completed over 570 million workouts, over a 25% increase from 2021. This is from futurefit.co.uk. But I would suffice to say that, controversy aside, and I never even watched Sex and the City myself, so I would have never heard that.
Right.
But the avenues of communication coming to me, I've heard of Peloton. I'm not about it personally, but I've definitely heard of it, which in and of itself brings us to even this moment right here. We're talking about it because of their advertisements, and they're doing it a little bit more now too. But COVID, everybody going to lockdown at home probably built their brand up and more advertising. And people got more about working out at home. So it's really, it's a matter of advertising. So apparently, I don't know average numbers for most of the other types of apps like Peloton, but I'd say $6 million or 6 million people worldwide is pretty successful.
It's a lot.
Yeah, except when you're losing $200 million a year.
Well, now
advertising
keep in mind,
can't fix everything if you have a bad business model.
Keep in mind, regardless of their business model, regardless of the controversy behind it, it was a great example of showing how the messaging changed down the funnel. And that's really what it was about, is showing the broad awareness to narration of the story down to, all right, please purchase this product because, we know you're interested. So regardless of, any outlying factors, whether they're a good company, a credible company, those are all extraneous. But when you think about the example it shows in terms of the marketing strategy, that was really something that we took notice of. Because everybody, you know, whether you like it, don't like it, you know the name. You know the name because of what they've built. And does it mean they're gonna be around tomorrow or next year? Absolutely not. We don't know that about any company. But when you look at the example of the marketing strategy, that's really what's key. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's been a lot of controversy with Peloton. That's social media, right? Some people love it. And there was even that one a few years ago where he gave it to someone as a Christmas present, and she, you know, it was a huge backlash about personal image and body image and things like that. So, I mean, they're controversial. They are. But when you look at the marketing strategy, and you know, Peloton is, you know, they're reaching out to people that maybe don't want to go to a gym or don't feel comfortable in a gym, or they want to people who don't have time to go to a gym or don't necessarily have the money to pay $200 a month for a gym. So, you know, they're reaching a very specific audience as well. They don't want to be judged at a gym. You know, all those things Peloton can tap into. So again, you know, it's just the marketing strategy behind it. You know, even the kid listening to his dad on the bike, he's like, what is he doing? And you know, he's just singing. No, he's actually exercising, but we're gonna make it look like fun. So that was great stuff though. Really great stuff for the engagement. I appreciate that, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions or?
I do, Libby. You keep mentioning Google AdWords and bidding. Could you give us a little bit more background information on what that is?
So Google AdWords, if you've ever, you know, so there's a strategy and there's a marketing tactic on Google called search engine marketing. And essentially that is marketing your business on Google through buying specific keywords. So if you ever looked for example, let's say you're looking for a Jeep and you're typing in the word Jeep, and all of a sudden in the search results you see the paid ads, they say paid, and then you see the organic, which are popping up on the other side of the screen or below. So the paid ads are the ones that are buying that word and they're spending the most money on that word Jeep. And typically it can be effective up to the point where every other dealer is now buying that word. So bidding, it's a bidding strategy with Google. You want the word Jeep, now you're gonna pay more. Everybody wants this word. You're gonna pay more, you're gonna pay more, and you're gonna pay more. And everybody's saying, okay, I want this word. So instead of, and it costs per click, right? CPC, cost per click. Every time you click on that word Jeep, they get charged.
Also, just remember, it's all especially like when pop-up ads first came out, 1 in 10 people clicked them. Nowadays, it's like 1 in 10,000. Like it's every generation, and the younger you are, most people will just flat out ignore sponsored ads.
Well, and typically they feel they're more expensive, so they'll go down to the organic results. I can't afford that because they're obviously paying for that, so I'm gonna go down further. A better example is probably like a dentist's office. So let's say, you know, a dentist wants to have a really good visibility on Google search results. You know, let's say, you know, oh, you know what, I have to go and have, you know, implants, or I want to go have cosmetic surgery. So they're typing in cosmetic surgery in Burlington, Vermont. And all of a sudden, the ones buying those words are going to pop up. But then you may feel, well, those are more expensive. Let me see who's further down in the search queries. So it's a bidding war, unfortunately, is how it happens. And, you know, especially with car dealers, that's the biggest problem with car dealers. They all buy the same keywords. Chevy's buying Ford, Ford's buying Chevy, and they're all trying to compete with each other to pop up, but they're just driving up the cost per click because Google's saying, ooh, this is desirable. You're gonna pay more, you're gonna pay more, you're gonna pay more.
Win-win for Google.
Not for Google, Google's getting rich.
Yeah, thank you for that information. I know that, like, so if I help run our Facebook page, like it'll ask you if you want to boost your event $10 or whatever, and that'll guarantee that 400 more people will see it and whatnot. But I didn't realize that there was so much sales and sales.
Yes.
Oh
it's
yeah.
Tremendous.
There's entire companies whose entire business models, they literally just sell bots so they can spread your advertisements and all that.
Yeah.
Create fake.
Yeah, so one other thing if I could ask about that you say that buying the word, like say Jeep, you know, and say Chevy got the word Jeep, and Jeep wanted to come in, like, and is it literally like bidding? Like Jeep will come back and be like, here's 20 more.
That's exactly
and
what
we
they
can
do.
have it back, and then they just go back and forth assigning it.
Chevy is buying Jeep, and they're buying Ford, and they're buying everything. So it's what we call the green zone. You can burn out a budget so easily by doing that.
And none of this goes against like the, you know, federal communications laws that talk about monopolies on companies.
Because it's a bidding war, it's a bidding exchange, it's programmatic. So this is what's happening. So we recommend, it's important to be there in that space, but do it with a very, very defined budget. So the good thing about Google is that you can automate these buys. So you can say, I only have this much to spend, Google. Automate this budget with this amount of money, and they will. They won't go above that. And when we do these campaigns, we can really dig in and optimize these campaigns to make sure you're getting the best possible reach with a very specific cost per click. A lot of times you have cost per click goals. I don't want to go above $3 on the word Jeep or $3 on the word Silverado, and it won't. So once it starts going up, it'll shut off. So there's ways to do it, and then the way to get around it is to incorporate video. Because what Google doesn't tell you is that they love video. So if you're utilizing video, you're going to get that Google love organically without having to burn out your budget.
And that's video regardless of whether it comes from YouTube or not?
Well, YouTube's going to help because Google owns YouTube, but it's also important to post it to your website. So if you have a video, make sure it's on your website, because then Google starts to see that website as credible, relevant. The websites that are utilizing video and doing it strategically are much more successful in terms of traffic, conversions, things like that.
You can also do other tactics. You can embed videos and have your. So what a lot of people do to inflate their view count is they'll buy an ad and they'll have the video auto play, or they'll buy it to have play on a sidebar on a website, and because it counts as a view, even though the people aren't really watching it, it hyperflates.
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously you guys do help businesses with their advertisements, like Removed Pizza. Can you give our camera people that are gonna watch this, do you have like a number figure of how much it, you know, ballpark of how much it may cost a business to like make a 30-second ad?
And that depends. You know, you can make a 30-second ad yourself on an iPhone, and actually during COVID, when, you know, we were social distancing, that's what a lot of businesses did. You'd see somebody talking from you could see it was a mobile device. So you can do it yourself, or you can hire someone to do it. You know, we always give the client the option. Sometimes they have footage, and we just put that together.
So you guys take over like the editing part of it?
Yeah, we just take over the editing, and then there's businesses that want full-on drone service, so we do that as well. But it really depends on your budget. I try to keep, for me, the most important dollars, especially when it comes to a small business, is making sure as much of that money as possible is put into this. So it's great to have a beautiful ad, but if you're spending, you know, all this money that you don't have any left over to put into marketing, it's like a billboard in the desert.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but nobody's gonna see it.
Also, you can get a lot of video editing software, all programs, all that, just online, and you can learn them relatively quickly. The only issues is when you get like more technical stuff, adding effects.
Yeah, Adobe Premiere is a pretty good editing.
That's a good one.
And then there are some that are lower quality editing, you know, but cheaper or free possibly.
Right.
My teenagers edit videos, whatnot, so.
And it really depends on what you're looking for. You know, we have clients that work with their own video, and then we actually provide the video service as well, but we're pretty cognizant of the fact that the majority of the dollars have to go into the marketing, because that's where it's going to work. You can have a gorgeous website and a gorgeous video, but if nobody's going to see it and act on it, then it's not serving its purpose.
Absolutely. So we've definitely got a society now that's, you know, 10-second videos, reels, shorts,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
It's like it said in your presentation, our ability to process, you know, video is much faster than it is for us to read text, so.
Absolutely. So think about, you know, especially as a small business, you know, really incorporating a video component into your strategy is so important, and it doesn't have to be cost prohibitive. It can actually be very affordable when you think about it, especially now with, you know, it's really got the message, right? It's about what we're saying. It's not so much about B-roll and imagery. It's great, but if it's a small business, it's more about the immediate message. Very important.
Great. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. This is a great session.
Thank you. I'm just a videographer here, but I'm sure Nick would say the Swanton Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming and the businesses.
Of course.
Definitely. We'll get some information together on making something another time, another presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. Well, thank you, everyone.
And thank you to the Swanton Library.
Yeah, we could.